And I love fishing. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's what I do. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's what I do.
From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast. Brought to you by Texas Fishing Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, Dustin Warncke, the outdoor success guy, back with another episode this week. Really excited to be back with you guys again. We're going to talk this episode about fall fishing, and a lot of you guys are out in the woods, a lot of you guys are out in the water. A lot of you guys are dreaming about being out in the water. As one of the listeners said the other day, he said, you know, this is as close as I get to the outdoors sometimes, and by goodness, that makes me feel good. So that's one reason why this podcast is here, is to serve you guys. And, you know, a lot of people think that me, Dustin Warncke, the outdoor success guy, I'm out on the woods and the water all the time. You know, I work hard just like you guys do. I put in long hours and everything. The time I do get to spend outdoors, I really cherish and appreciate. And I try to just relish every moment I get to spend outside. And as Chester Moore says, who's been a frequent guest on this show, if you don't like the outdoors, you're just weird, you know, because there's just so much great things to do. You can hike out there, you can boat, you can kayak, you can just enjoy God's creation in all its splendor. You can hunt, you can fish, you can camp, you can do all kinds of different things with your family. It's just a great place to connect with nature. And my whole goal, as I said in this last show that we did, is just to keep the wild from dying. You know, keep the things that are important to us as hunters and fishermen and outdoorsmen that enjoy the sport alive, and the heritage and everything is there in the sport of what we do, but also to educate other people and to just carry the torch high in the regard of taking care of each other and you know, taking care of those that aren't necessarily our friends and are sometimes against us in hunting and fishing in the outdoor sports, and you know, just appreciating and seeking first to understand and then to be understood. So there you go. Well, thank you guys so much again. Today I've got a great episode for you. Matt Williams back on the podcast again. Had him on last, I believe it was November. It was maybe in December, but we talked about fall bass fishing back then, and I wanted to have him back on because this is a fantastic time to be out in the water, whether you're fresh or saltwater fishing. We haven't done a freshwater show in a while, so I wanted to cover the bases on that and do something with catfish, bass, and striped bass. Obviously black bass, largemouth bass, catfish, and striped bass is kind of the main ones to target this time of the year. And I do a lot of different fishing excursions with my son this time of year. I'm getting ready to head out. Actually, the week that this airs, I'm going to be going to Crosswater Outfitters, which is my fishing ministry in Belton, Texas, is where it's based. Actually, I believe it's based in Temple. But anyway, long story short, it's just a great place to connect with wounded soldiers, their families, guys that are getting out of the military. And I give a devotion there called The New Normal. I did a podcast live from there the last time we did this back in April, and don't know if I'll do one this year over there, but really had a great time with, let's see, who was it? Dennis and Terry from that ministry, leadership in that ministry. And I give like I said, a talk called The New Normal at the Saturday part of the devotion, and it's kind of a spirit-filled, faith-filled talk that I give about having hope. And I try to give hope in all my Facebook videos that I do and all the different things that I do out there, and inspiration and motivation and everything else. So if you've not done so, check me out on Facebook, check out my YouTube channel. Easy to find at dustinsprojects.com. That's dustinsprojects.com. You can read some of my work and see some of my videos as well at fishgame.com. That's fishgame.com, the Texas Fishing Game, Texas Outdoor Nation website and blog. And anyway, I really look forward to spending this time with you guys in whatever capacity you're in, and whether you're in the outdoors hunting right now or fishing or on the water, wherever you are. I just like spending this time with you every couple of weeks just to get you grounded back to what's important. And, you know, I talk tactical and practical a lot, but on the last show we talked about the kind of essence of why we hunt and fish, and some of the deeper things around the wildlife and the nature, complex, and all the different things that we have going on. this time of year. So anyway, here's my interview with Mr. Matt Williams, and we will see you guys on the other end of this episode with a reminder to check out all of our newsletters and all the awesome things we have going on at fishgame.com. You can read the digital issue of the magazine every month there. Really, in some cases, the native issue you can read for free, or you can subscribe to the digital issue, which is really cool, and read it that way on your phone through our blog. And also, you can read the paper magazine, or the print magazine, rather, anytime like that. So, Matt Williams, just to give you some background if you've not heard him before, Texas Fishing Game columnist, feature article writer, many fishing features he's written over the years. He writes for several different newspapers and magazines. He is a full-time outdoor writer, and just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to boating and fishing, and all types of and styles of getting out there and getting things done in the water. Matt Williams does it, and I really looking forward to having him on the show, and I'm really happy that he came on. And now that this show is airing, just have him back on. It's just great. So here's my interview with Mr. Matt Williams. Joining me on the phone, Mr. Matt Williams, Texas Fishing Game columnist and feature article writer. How are you doing today, Mr. Matt?
I'm doing good, and you?
Oh, better than I deserve is my usual answer, and I'm just feeling great. I've wanted to have you back on the show for a while to talk about some freshwater fishing stuff, because we've talked a lot about hunting and saltwater lately, and just excited to have you back on the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're always a wealth of knowledge when it comes to freshwater fishing, and that's why I wanted to have you back on. So one of the things I want to talk about on this episode is things that we do is preparing for. I mean, a lot of people are out in the woods hunting and that kind of stuff this time of year. This is a great time of year to go after those big largemouth bass, is it not?
Oh, no question, and it's also a good time to catch a lot of numbers, Dustin, because
yes.
Fish are bunching up. A lot of them are chasing shad. The shad are going to start their movements up the creeks like they do every year when the water starts cooling down, and those bass, you find your shad, the bass aren't going to be very far away. Yes. Lots of schooling action, but I mean it's a good time of the year to be fishing. Like you said, a lot of people are in the woods or getting ready to be in the woods, and the lakes are going to be less pressured, less fishermen on the water, and which that just adds to the good fishing. You take away that pressure, and it just adds up to good fishing.
No, that's good to know. And the other thing I like about the winter months and the fall months is that it kind of gets rid of those pleasure boaters as much. A lot of us hunters, a lot of us fishermen don't really care for the folks that are skiing all the time, out there in the summer.
Right. It's just a lot more pleasant to be out on the water. The temperatures are cooler, and it's just, it's been a pretty torrid summer here, especially here in East Texas.
Oh, sure.
It's supposed to be 90 degrees here in Nacogdoches today, but hopefully we'll get some changes coming here before long.
And it's October, man, I'm telling you.
Oh, I know it. I'd hate to have been on a bow stand this morning.
Right. Yeah, that's pretty. Well, if not just that, you got that, and you've got the mosquitoes and everything else, that clobber you this time of year in the bow stand. I mean, I got my Thermacell mosquito repellent thing going on. I was hog hunting this past weekend with some family members at a ranch I work for, and I was just like, man, those October sits are kind of hard sometimes,
Oh yeah, it's they'll eat you alive.
They will if you don't protect yourself. Yeah, so. No, that's good. So tell me about what some of your best baits are for this time of year, walking into the winter as well, your January, just after Christmas months and stuff like that. I just kind of wanted to give a forecast on what you're really throwing this time of year. Well,
I mean, fall kind of opens the door to a lot of different patterns, Dustin. I mean, you can... on your lakes where you have hydrilla, we've had a lot of rain, and it's changed the lake levels a lot.
Yes.
But typically, fall is the period of the year when your lakes are at their lowest levels because of summer. Summer, you've got less water coming in than you have going out. So the lake levels typically drop, and that's the case on some of the lakes in East Texas. We've had some big rains up around Dallas, and it's got everything. You know, it's raised a lot of the water levels up in that part of the country, but down here, several of the lakes are still fairly low. And on lakes that have hydrilla, your hydrilla is going to be matted, you know, pretty close to the surface, if not on top. And what that enables you to do is follow your creek channels a lot easier than you can when you can't see the grass, because with the grass on top, you can visibly see it, and it enables you to follow your creek channels and stay on the edges and fish at the edges of that grass where the fish tend to be positioned. They use the edges of that grass to as ambush points to ambush shad and other bait fish when they swim by.
Right.
So fishing your creek channels is a very good pattern on grass lakes this time, or any lake this time of the year, because the shad are going to be going up the creeks. But you're going to have, you know, a lot of topwater action. You're going to have, you know, fish that are going to be hitting frogs, spooks, pop-Rs, and whatnot. But you're also, you know, going to be able to catch fish on moving baits, such as square bills, spinner baits, bladed jigs, you know, the chatterbait, and stuff like that. Or a lot of times those fish, if they're not relating grass, they may be bunched up in a creek bend, you know, down in the bottom of the creek itself. And if you find those fish setting in that creek bend, you know, you can set in one spot with a Texas rig and just sit there and wear them out, you know, because and then once you get them stirred up, they may actually start schooling on the surface, you know, and then you can go start catching them on a topwater or rattle trap or baits like that.
Right.
But in addition to that, you're also going to have a lot of fish still relating to your hard bottom structure out on the main lake or around brush piles. That those fish can be caught on, you know, spoons, shaky heads, Carolina rigs, you know, crankbaits and stuff like that. Like I said, it opens up the door to a wide variety of patterns where you can catch fish in a number of different ways.
That's awesome, and I do the hotspot fishing reports for a lot of the lakes in Central, East, and North Texas, and I really find it interesting that a lot of the reports are close to the same when it comes to, you know, concentrating on those creeks, you know, concentrating on, you know, upriver or whatever the case may be, wherever the bass are moving. And you just like you said earlier in the podcast, the more that you concentrate on where the bait is, the more you're going to find the fish.
Yeah, that's how the bass make their living, you know, is around shad, and that's where they're going to be.
Eat and breed. That's what they do, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And they're going to be eating a lot this time of year. To
feed up, right?
You know, one of the old sayings is, you know, they know the days are getting shorter and the nights are getting longer, and they know that winter's around the corner, and they're stacking on some, you know, extra weight winter. But you know, that's. Whether there's any truth to that, I mean, I don't know what a fish thinks, but
sometimes
it makes sense. I mean, it seems that's the way that seems like that's the way they operate.
Well, Chester Moore, our editor-in-chief, I don't know if you saw this video, Matt, or not, but on Facebook Live, I recorded him actually interviewing a Florida bass while we were in ICAST in Florida. Mm-hmm.
What did he say?
And the Florida bass did not have anything to say. He was tight-lipped on the whole deal. Yeah. So anyway, but no, it was just kind of a funny thing. We were just making the comment that fish can sometimes be smarter than us when it comes to what they eat. But that's why there's Bassmaster and, you know, all these elite series and all this different stuff. Obviously, Major League Fishing and all that stuff that's going on. You know, because it is such a challenge to outsmart them at their own game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is a challenge, no doubt, and they will humble you.
Yeah.
You know,
That's where I'm going with that. If they will humble
One
you,
day
absolutely.
you think you've got them figured out, and the next day you find out that you don't.
Right.
That's just the way it works.
Can we talk for a minute? You and I talked about this on our pre-show recording when we were just talking earlier this week. What's going on with bass and Major League Fishing right now?
Oh man, it's been a huge shakeup over the last few weeks. It's Major League Fishing back in early September announced they were starting a new tour called the Bass Pro Tour. And,
right.
By invitation only, and going to be an 80 angler field, and invitations were sent out and to an undisclosed list. The list was not made public.
Right.
Till just slowly but surely over the last week and a half or so, anglers who received those invitations made their decisions, and Major League Fishing allowed them to do that on their own. Most of them did it via Facebook or Instagram. Right. But that list of people, the field is now full. They made that announcement a couple of days ago.
Right.
That list includes 68 anglers from the Bassmaster Elite Series, 11 from the FLW Tour, and one that was non-affiliated, hadn't fished either two, is
right.
a boat builder from Missouri. But that list includes, just about every heavy hitter in the sport. I'm working on a story on it right now, and it includes. Let me put my glasses on so I can
okay, that's fine. I was just making the point that it's a big.
It includes more than a dozen Bassmaster Classic champions, 6 FLW Cup champions, and a combined total of 16 Angler of the Year winners from those two tours.
Right.
And the thing is they're not saying that they can't fish other tours, but the tournaments are going to overlap, so it's going to make it impossible.
It's going to make it exclusive.
Fish other tours, so
right.
It's been a big shakeup, and it's like we talked about the other day. It's going to be good for the sport. It's going to create competition. Bassmaster and FLW both run great circuits, and this one is just going to add to the mix, and it's going to create a whole different dynamic to the sport. Because Major League Fishing has created a great following with their made-for-TV format.
Sure.
It's going to be real interesting to see how it all unfolds. The fishermen have been working towards this for years to create, a league where they feel like they have more say-so and can be more in control of their own destiny, so to speak. And they think this is the route, that this is going to be the avenue that's going to allow them to do that. And like I said, it'll be real interesting to see how all this unfolds in the coming months and years. To see how it all shakes out.
Right. Well, thanks for putting on your glasses and looking at the stats on that article you're working on. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I needed to do that.
I know that goes. You got to put on your cheater sometimes, so. That's good. One of the things that as we move into October, and obviously we're in October now, but as we move into the winter months, one of the things that I do, and I'm probably going to miss this year, but I've done it the last 5 or 6 years, is I make a trek to East Texas to go fish for big blue cats on Lake Conroe. And one of the best strategies we use is jug lines, three hook jug lines. Mud Cat Fishing Jugs is who we use, and it's a good buddy of our fishing ministry, Crosswater Outfitters, that makes those. And we just load the boat. I mean, this is the time of year to catch eaters. This is the time of year to catch the big ones that you catch and release. You know, I think the biggest one we've caught on one of my trips is 65 pounds. Mm-hmm. And any strategy talk about that? Because I wanted to talk about that as well, catfish in the winter.
Oh, I mean, your passive fishing techniques like your jug lining
Sure.
that you mentioned they're effective. If a guy's looking to catch fish to eat, I mean, I enjoy jug lining. I enjoy trot lining.
Sure.
And setting stump hooks is another option, especially that's really popular on the upper end of Toledo Bend in years when it again, here's another one of those fall deals when the lake levels drop.
Right.
Upper end of Toledo Bend is just one big, huge forest of stumps. Once you get above Huxley Bay,
Yep.
it's just a big, huge expanse of stumps, and those stumps line the creek channels. And my good friend Charlie Shively owns Bill's Landing on the Texas side on the upper end, and it's a trot liner's hub.
Really?
So to speak. And there's a lot of people go over there in the fall and set stump hooks on the edges of the creeks, and they catch some huge flatheads as well as blues, because the low water pushes those fish off the flats, and they patrol those creeks to feed at night, and that's they bait up with live perch. It's just a single hook on a stump, and they catch some huge fish over there this time of year. And I know Charlie, he releases the majority at anything over 30 pounds. He cuts them loose, but the passive fishing like that is a great option. But there's also a growing contingent of anglers who are targeting these big fish with rod and reel.
Yes.
A lot of different lakes, and that's a really popular deal from fall on up through the winter. And the colder it gets, it seems like the better it gets, because the shads start to ball up over the deep water. And these guys that do this, that guide and stuff like this, they've got it figured out, on their electronics, what to look for and how to fish for these big fish, how to locate these big fish around those balls of shad, and they catch them drift fishing, with mostly for fresh cut shad or live shad. That's the ticket.
That's the beta choice for us too on Lake Conroe. Yeah, I was just going to say that.
And speaking of Conroe, here like 2 weeks ago, I saw there was a 10-year-old boy from I'm not sure where he was from, but he was fishing with a guide at Conroe and caught a new lake record, junior angler record blue, weighed 50 pounds, caught it on 10-pound line and an ultralight rig, 8-ounce crappie jig.
An ultralight rig for a 50-pound cat. Wow.
Had a 8-ounce crappie jig with a 3-inch thread fin shad on it.
Wow, that catfish probably just took that thing and ran with it, man.
Oh, yeah, they had to chase him down, pulling the reel, but the kid managed to land the fish,
That's a hoss of a catfish, too.
Oh, yeah.
Good Lord.
A fish like that, that's a powerful critter. You can just imagine what that'd be like on an ultralight with 10-pound line.
And a 10-year-old, too.
One of those deals that everything have to go just right.
Exactly. You have to line up. The stars would have to line up in alignment, right?
Yeah,
that's right, for sure. So, no, it's just one of those things that it just kind of blows. And I love to see kids catch those big fish because it gets them hooked on the sport early, and they pass that on to their next generation. And that's how we spread the love of this sport, I think. I talk about that on every show.
Oh, it's no doubt. I mean, that's a lifetime memory that you're never going to forget. I mean, we've all got them. You know, there's different things that we remember from our childhoods that hooked us on this sport. And, I mean, that kid there. I mean, he'll never forget that.
Yeah, he's hooked for life for sure after you catch something like that, especially something that's a junior lake record like that you can really hang on the wall and, you know, tell all your friends about at school, you know, so that doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, it's kind of like a kid going out, you know, 10 years old and killing a Boone and Crockett buck on his first deer hunt.
Right.
You know?
Where do you go from there?
Yeah, where do you go from there?
You know, I say that all the time on the show, so, no, that's a good point. But, you know, I'm getting ready 2 weeks from now. I think the week that this episode will air, I'm going to go to Lake Belton here in Central Texas where I live, and we're going to catch a bunch of eaters. We do a soldiers fishing ministry thing with Crosswater Outfitters for soldiers getting out of the military and their families. And I know a lot of people that listen to the show have heard me talk about this before, but jug lines aren't just a great idea to catch a lot of big catfish, passive fishing like you say, but it's also the case with catching a lot of the numbers, you know, filling the boat, and we do a fish fry every Saturday night when we do this, so we depend on those numbers to make our fish fry.
Sure.
And
yeah,
so,
I mean, yeah. Like I said, that's a good way to catch numbers, and I mean it's a fun way to fish. It's one of those deals where the thing about jug lining and any kind of passive, you never know what's going to be on there.
Right. And Belton is usually a gar, you know, and I usually cook those up just as well. So a gar will usually be caught at least 2 or 3 times in that trip, but it's mainly catfish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it.
Well, and the one thing I was going to say for anybody that does want to jug line this time of year, our rule with our fishing ministry, and that's typically where I do probably 95% of my jug lining, is our rule is basically to do 3 hooks instead of 5. The state allows you 5, but 3 hooks makes the most sense because you've got less issues to get tangled on, you got less things to get hooks stuck in a finger, and so on and so forth. Because there's a lot of moving parts with the jug line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's something I was going to mention too.
Oh yeah. I mean, 3 hooks is plenty. You can cover the water column.
Right,
you know.
That's where I was going with that. Cover the water column, you know, depth
cover the
wise.
water column just fine with 3 hooks.
No, I figured that's what you'd say. And
do you use circle hooks on your jugs?
Circle or Kale.
Yeah.
I mean, Kale, both of them work well, but I'm more of a fan for circle hook because it kind of closes the deal in itself and it hooks them on the side of the mouth, you know, and gets a good hook set. But I mean, a lot of guys on our ministry team will use Kale hooks with good success too. But what's your preference?
Oh, circle hooks all the way.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
So those of us that own jugs do that, but it's just a great time to get outdoors, man. The weather's cooling down. I mean, I know it's like 90 degrees today, but it's just a lot more comfortable to fish in, and I love the sport, and I just love getting kids hooked on it, and I love giving back to our soldiers that served us, which I'm getting ready to do this next weekend, and you know, it's just a great time to be out there. As far as bass goes, one of the things I was going to mention as well is one of the things I throw this time of year is a swim jig or swim bait on, I forget what jig head I use, but I use Z-Man because they float. And the tails float a little bit above the, you know, where your jig head's on the bottom, the tail will actually float up, so it looks even more so like a wounded bait fish. Do you have any experience with that?
Are you talking about a swim bait? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, swim bait on a like a mustad hook. And I don't have a ton of experience with this, but they make a swim bait rig, a weighted swim bait rig. Mustad does, and Gamakatsu does as well. And basically, Z-Man makes the swim shad, or I forget what they call them, but basically they're all of their soft plastics, like their swim baits, float. You know, so it's kind of more realistic, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it probably must have more of a tail up approach.
Buoyancy, yeah, that's
bottom,
what I'm trying.
you know,
Yeah, buoyancy is what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
and swim bait. I mean, I fish those a lot. You know, when I'm fishing a swim bait, I'll throw it on a. I like a weighted belly hook.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with that. That's what I just don't have all the vernacular at the present moment to say that, but a weighted belly hook is what I'm talking about. Yes.
Yeah, and you know, that's another good choice. You know, because they do. You know, you get your pearl and your white patterns. You know, that's perfect shad imitator.
Okay,
you know,
good.
And you can fish it a lot around. You know, it comes through cover really well if you want to throw it up around pads and scattered grass and stuff like that. You know, or you can fish it on a heavier style hook, or even with a jig head and get it. You know, fish it deeper in the water column if you need to, if that's where the fish are positioned.
Well, it's one of the things that I wanted to ask the expert, because that's what I've been throwing lately, you know, and I just want to make sure that I'm doing it right. So
swim bait's a good choice in the fall.
Good.
It's a good choice any time of year, really, especially, but, you know, fall through the winter and early spring, it tends to work best in, you know, clear water situations.
Right.
You know, I don't like one if it's a lot of dirty water, because it's more of a sight thing. You know, They need to be able to see it.
No, I understand that. It's just one of those things that you know, the chatterbait's another one that I use this time of year that's paid off very successfully. And Z-Man obviously is I think the inventor of the chatterbait, the bladed jig, that they call the chatterbait. And I mean, those have been effective for me too. You mentioned that earlier as being an effective one. And it's just kind of neat to work those in the water, because they kind of an interesting style that you present your bait to your bass. So.
Oh, chatterbait's deadly, and it catches big fish.
Right.
You know, there's lots of big fish caught on chatterbaits. I don't know. You know, it's a combination of a you know, the majority of the big fish in Texas have been caught on a jig, and this just puts a
blade on a jig, yeah.
Blade on the front of it, and they'll eat it, and it'll work in clear water, or it works well, and it'll even work in dirty or muddy water. You know, I tend to prefer a darker color, like, you know, black and blue, if the water's muddy.
Sure.
But
that's good.
They'll hammer it, you know, and you know you can fish it. You can fish it different ways. I mean, I fish it a lot with a trim the skirt about an inch long, and then put a swim bait like a Lake Fork shad.
Okay, sure.
That gives it a whole different action, you know, because not only do you have the vibration of the jig working for you, but you've also got that swim bait working for you behind it now.
Right. It's kind of a combination, 1-2 punch kind of thing. Yeah, I like that. That's cool.
It's a deadly combination.
These are the strategies I have Matt Williams on the show for, right here, folks. So, you know, but one of the things I was going to ask you real quick before we get off the phone is, you know, I know you're not a huge striped bass fisherman, striper fisherman, but you recently this year, you went on a trip with Striper Express, who's a good friend of our show, our podcast, Bill Carey Striper Express on Lake Texoma. Do you want to talk basically about the strategies on striper? I mean, it's not really complicated. I was just gonna.
Oh no, we fished it. It was a wintertime trip. I fished with Chris.
Yeah, Chris Carey, his son. Yep.
And we spent a lot. You know, Chris knows where those fish live. If you've never fished with him, folks, you need to make a trip up there, because he's a really cool guy.
Yeah. He's a cool dude. Yeah.
Anyway, you know, we just spent a lot of time running points, you know, with stumps and fishing swim baits, and those fish were up there feeding on those points, you know, and caught some really nice fish. And I mean, you talk about a hard pulling fish now, stripers.
Yeah, no,
they're bulls.
Yeah, they're tough. They're rough. Well, I wrote an article on kayaking for carp, and I always said you put a striper next to a carp, you know, pound for pound, I still think a carp would win, but a striper's a darn good adversary. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
because they will
get
fight.
one of those 20-pounders, and But I know what you're saying about carp too. I fished for those a lot of them. Years ago. I used to fish for them a bunch. And
They don't play the game to lose, do they, Matt?
No, they're just they don't quit.
They don't quit at all, even if you get them up to the boat. They don't really ever surrender, stripers like that too. But I was just making that comparison. But no, I mean, it's a great time to fish live bait for striper, but also I just wanted to bring this up on a freshwater podcast. One thing that Striper Express does really well is artificial only, isn't that right?
Yeah, they do a lot of, you're using swim baits and stuff like that in the wintertime, but then, they always have a huge topwater season up there in the late spring. And,
yes.
That's I've never made it up there to do that with them, but I need to make that trip, but that's how they catch a lot of fish in the late spring, is they catch them on topwaters.
Right, and that's explosive to watch a striper hit a topwater. I've seen plenty of video, and I've experienced some of it in person too, especially with striped bass and white bass hitting those topwaters, Zara spooks or whatever you want to throw out there, the pencil poppers, that kind of stuff. But
they're aggressive.
They're so aggressive. I mean, they sit there and they either slap it with their tail, or they'll go back through and just nail that thing. I mean, it's explosive. It's like watching a largemouth bass hit a buzzbait. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
The water just explodes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's kind of like, well, I don't know if I would compare it to a peacock bass, because I've never seen an explosion like that in anywhere over in this part of the world.
Where were you fishing for peacock bass back in the day?
Oh, I've been over to the Amazon a couple of times.
Oh, cool. Good deal.
Oh, it was just an incredible trip.
They hit it really hard, I'm sure.
Oh,
I've seen the video.
It's like somebody dropping a interstate battery in the water. Second floor.
Funny.
I mean, that's
kaploosh. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
and
funny.
they're so violent, and they jump, and it's just wild.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. But I don't want to keep you too much longer. We're at about the 30-minute mark, and I just wanted to have you back on, because you're just a wealth of knowledge when it comes to freshwater, and you're a freshwater editor, of course, and people can check you out at fishgame.com through our digital magazine, or our print magazine every month in the mailbox if you subscribe. How else can they connect with you, Matt?
Oh, I write for a bunch of newspaper publications around the East Texas area. Just that's really about it. I don't have a website or anything.
That's fine. You don't. Are you on Facebook often? I forget.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
But I don't post a lot of stuff on Facebook.
That's fine. I was just curious. I like you older salts at this, because you guys have the experience. It's just to get you on a medium like a podcast that younger listeners listen to. It's kind of cool, because it's like a mixing of the generations. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Well, I'm not that old now.
I didn't say you were. I'm just messing with you. No, I'm just saying that it's that it's one of those things where a lot of guys in your generation, is what I'm saying, don't even know what a podcast is in a lot of cases. So, it's just kind of cool to have a guy like you on the show with this much knowledge and experience you have of boating and fishing and freshwater stuff, to kind of educate us, is what I'm trying to say. I'm giving you a compliment. Wisdom is where I'm going. I appreciate it. Wisdom is where I'm going. So.
Yeah. Speaking of wisdom, folks, in this cold weather, this cold water coming up that we're going to have, in the coming months, always wear your life jackets when you're on the water. Always wear your life jacket.
Yep. I think that's a really good idea, is just to try to be safe out there, because there's hypothermia, there's a lot of things that can happen if you get wet. One of the first experiences I had on an East Texas lake was getting out there and not having enough rain gear, not having enough good rain gear on, and it was windy, and this has been several years ago, but it was windy, and I thought I was safe as a kitten, and those waves came over the sides of the boat, and I got wet and cold and just miserable.
Oh, that's nothing will ruin your day on the water like getting wet when it's cold and
rainy
windy.
and windy, because I was
Good rain gear, good foul weather gear is the key.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different, brands on the market that do that. But the funny thing with that is that I've started just showing up. The guys are like, "Are you going duck hunting or catfishing?" I mean, I play to win, because I really wear, waterproof everything. And Rocky makes a good, bib and jacket, parka, and I'm just covered from head to the toe in waterproof stuff. When it comes to catching those big fish, because you never know if the weather's going to turn foul on you. I mean, this is Texas. If you don't like the weather, just wait.
Yes, so. And I mean the key is waterproof.
Right.
I've been out there with some stuff that I thought was good.
Yeah, me too. That's where I was going with that. Yeah.
And then after getting pounded for an hour and a half, eventually you find out what you've got isn't so good.
Right.
And
it's vulnerable.
That will ruin your day. But good foul weather gear is a must this time of year, because like you said, you never know when. I mean, watch the weather forecast for sure, but
right.
It can happen before you know it, and you'll be coming off the water, or you'll be wishing you were off the water instead of enjoying yourself.
It's miserable out there if you don't Scotch guard your stuff and or wear waterproof gear. And that's just one thing I've learned fishing cold weather stuff, is just prepare for the foul weather, because it may be right around the corner. It may be something that blows in last minute, and just always have that waterproof gear. And that's something that I'm very cognizant of, even if it's going to be a pleasant weekend. Just having that one experience and being miserable, I'm just like, I'm not doing this again. Dustin's showing up prepared next time, and I've shown up prepared every other time since then. So
yes, sir.
But it's just one of those things. Well, Matt, thanks so much again for joining us. And you have any final words?
No, man, just get out and catch some fish and enjoy yourself out there. We've got a good place to do it.
There's no place like Texas, is there? I mean, I know a lot of people listen to the show outside of the state and stuff, but I mean, we've got the best saltwater fishing and the best freshwater fishing, and the lakes are, the Bassmaster Classic was held at Lake Conroe in 2017, and I mean, we just have, and a lot of the Elite Series tournaments, as Matt, are held here, and Toledo Bend, Sam Rayburn. I mean, all these awesome lakes, Falcon down to South Texas, and all these awesome lakes we have. There's just a lot of fun to be had here, is what I'm trying to say.
No doubt about it.
And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Matt Williams. You can check him out on several different channels and options and places that you can find Matt. Definitely at fishgame.com, and he's been doing some YouTube videos for us lately on boating and on fishing. And then obviously in our magazine, lots of feature articles. And then his column, he's our freshwater editor, and so his column can be read every month that the magazine runs, which is 12 months a year. And really, really good insight from him on that kind of stuff. And I didn't want to dive too much into the Major League Fishing versus Bassmaster arena, but I thought it would be kind of controversial. But at the same time, I think that it needs to be said when you're talking about a freshwater podcast, or a podcast on freshwater fishing in this case, because it's big news. I mean, I certainly do not take one side to love one over the other. I've been a Bassmaster fan for a long time, and watched the Bassmaster Classic and a lot of the Elite Series, and keep up with a lot of the pro anglers. But it's just kind of interesting to see the exodus over to Major League Fishing and some of the things that they've got going on there as well. So for me, I'm just kind of watching and learning, and letting you make up your own opinion on what you figure we should you should think about that. That's it's one of those things like Fox News, we report, you decide. So that's all I was trying to do with that. So definitely no harm, no foul on any of that that's going on there. I try to steer clear of controversial issues like that. I'm taking a side, but I certainly love to talk about the kind of trends that are in the fishing world, and that was a big one definitely that happened here recently. So anyway, if you've not done so already, please check out the Facebook page, Fish Game, Texas Fish Fish and Game. You can just keyword search that and you'll find Texas Fish and Game's Facebook page. We've got something like 59,000 followers over there. We post podcasts, post videos, post articles, links to articles and stuff like that there. And then also we have our newsletter. You can sign up for that at fishgame.com. That is free. As well as some parts of the digital magazine are free as well, and you can read the native version, I believe, for free, where you just flip the pages and stuff. I don't know how mobile friendly that is, but it's really cool. You can do it that way. And then the newsletters, again, are Tactical and Practical Tuesday, Wildlife Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. Awesome, fun newsletters, great content. One of my favorite subject lines ever. I was just going back and finding one of Capital Farm Credit's past banner ads in a newsletter I think we did back in February, and Cindy Delana, the gal that handles our Facebook page and puts our newsletters together, is the one that's in charge of coming up with the subject lines for the newsletters, and she has done some doozies too. She's done some good ones, but my favorite all-time one was, "Do seagulls taste like chicken?" I just could not get over that one. It was a thing about seagulls interacting with fishermen and that kind of stuff, those kind of things. I don't remember exactly what the article was, but "Do seagulls taste like chicken?" I'm still giggling about that. So anyway, thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Please tell a friend. Please rate the podcast 5 stars if you like what you hear. If you don't like what you hear, obviously you can rate it whatever you want to, but I try to put out a good show every couple of weeks and really crank this out and get you good content, whether you're in Texas or beyond, wherever you live. I just love doing this show, man. It is cathartic, meaning therapeutic for me. All that I do to express myself in front of this microphone is just radiated in what I do in the show, and I've got heavy fingerprints all over the music and all the stuff that I do in the show notes and stuff like that I put together. It's a lot of work to do one of these, even every 2 weeks, but I really enjoy doing the podcast, and I really appreciate you guys checking it out and telling a friend and leaving me a 5-star rating on iTunes or Stitcher or FM Player or wherever you found it. That would just mean the world to me. I'd love to hear your feedback. Connect with me as well on social media. I've got a public profile. I've got a page, but pages really aren't that big of a deal in Facebook's world anymore. So groups and posts are where you'll mainly find me, or groups and my personal Facebook page is where you'll mainly find me. And I've been putting out some good motivational videos out there when I go to the gym every couple of days, and really trying to inspire and motivate and give spoonfuls of hope and meaning and inspiration and significance and purpose in life in those videos. So I hope you'll check those out. But Dustin, Dustin, you can search for my last name, Warncke. Check out all of my Facebook stuff and all of my all the stuff that I'm involved in with the articles, podcast, radio stuff, and videos at dustinsprojects.com. That's dustinsprojects.com. I also have an online course if you want to be a guide or an outfitter or want to do any kind of work full-time in the outdoor industry like what I do in media. That is also at dustinsprojects.com. You can go check that out, and that is a relatively low cost for all the content that's behind that deal. So the online course is really good. So anyway, really appreciate you guys watching, reading, and listening. Thank you guys so much for doing so. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.
I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love fishing. Man, I love fishing. That's just what I do. I can't say it enough. I'm never giving it up. I just love it so much. I love